Welcome to the Massage Tools Podcast. Have you ever wanted to be a medical provider at the Olympic or Paralympic Games? Have you ever wanted to work with organizations like USA Swimming, USA Track and Field, USA Soccer? If the answer is yes, this is the episode for you. I have Taryn Pennington of the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee on, and we discuss the Sports Medicine Volunteer Program. If you don't know what that is, first and foremost, it's an opportunity to get experience working with elite athletes. But secondly, it is an opportunity to be identified as an awesome provider and someone they're going to grab to go to games, or maybe someone they refer out to one of those national governing bodies we talked about. So opportunities to help out Team USA. With her on the podcast, I pick her brain a little bit about the application process, what makes a good applicant. We also get into the logistics of what the rotation might look like, aka your time on campus at one of the training centers. And then finally, some of the opportunities that may come out of participating in the program. As a little side note, this is the Massage Tools Podcast, so I did aim this heavily towards massage applicants or massage therapist applicants. However, if you are a provider, athletic trainer, physical therapist, chiropractor, physician, etc., there will be a lot of overlap between what we talk about and what you would experience and have to go through in your application process. So if you're joining us from a different discipline, number one, thank you. But number two, just kind of know that going into this, we did kind of aim this for that massage audience. But you know what? That's enough out of me. Let's kick it. Welcome to the Massage Tools Podcast, your home for cool interviews and reviews. Taryn, thank you so much for joining us today. Obviously, kind of coming off the Olympics and Paralympic Games, lots of questions about becoming either a medical provider or more specifically a massage therapist at the Olympic Games. And I've done a rotation, but you were kind of the person in charge of it. So, step one is obviously the application process, and that's on the USA Olympic Paralympic Committee Sports Med page for the volunteer program. But would you mind kind of running us through what the application process looks like, and especially those requirements for those massage folks?
Yeah, absolutely. So for more information and to actually apply, all you have to do is go to the Team USA website, and it's teamusa.org/medical volunteer. And that kind of will outline just the overall, kind of expectations. We just added an FAQ sheet to that as well. That really outlines a lot of different questions that were most commonly asked. But the overall application, basically, once you get to the website and you click application, you'll just provide us with your contact information. We ask about your education, where did you go to school? What kind of training do you have? What's your employment history? And then we ask you to upload some different professional documents. And so the main ones that are required is, a copy of your license, if that's applicable for your state. We ask you to upload a resume, a cover letter, and then any additional certifications that we have or that you may have. So we know a lot of massage therapists happen to have specialties with maybe myofascial release or active release, things like that. So if you have any of those special trainings, we definitely want to know about those. So we ask that you upload those certifications as well. And then, once you submit the application, we kind of will review that and then go from there. The requirements specific for massage therapists who are looking to do a rotation, again, if your state requires a license, you would have to be licensed massage therapist. You need to have malpractice insurance. You need to have be CPR certified as well. And then you have to have documentation of your education hours and training. And then we also, once you're accepted into the program, we also require all medical providers to complete SafeSport training, anti-doping training, and then a criminal and professional background check. So those are the main requirements for the application process for massage therapists.
Okay, excellent. I know there was an hours of education required at one point in time. Is that just the requirements for schooling, or if you've done advanced certifications or other continuing education, can that cumulatively put you over that mark of hours?
Yeah, you can absolutely. Yeah, we know that some schooling doesn't necessarily meet. So the hour requirement is 750 hours. And so we know some schooling and training programs don't have that as their minimum. They may be just under at 700 or 650. So you can absolutely supplement that with continuing education and outside credits. We really have that requirement just to make sure that all of the providers that we're bringing in are, very competent, very well trained. That also helps because some states don't regulate massage therapy with a license or registration system. That helps us, kind of make sure and kind of do a secondary check for those who might not have licensure.
Okay, excellent. And then in the original description, you were talking about something called SafeSport. I've got a good idea. I've been through the training, but will you kind of describe to the listeners what SafeSport is?
Yeah, so SafeSport is a great program, and their emphasis is really on the protection of athletes. And so a lot of that training talks about sexual harassment, bullying, any kind of situations that might put the athlete in danger. It talks about the importance of always having chaperones when working with minors, the proper way to handle any situations where you may be concerned about an athlete's well-being. So that whole program is what we use for all medical providers to kind of give them the education and training and tools to be prepared to, identify those situations, and then also make sure they avoid those situations, because sometimes there are little things that you may not think about, right? Like you're doing a massage and you're like, oh, we want a quiet space just so the massage is more relaxing. But SafeSport, with SafeSport policies in place, all massage therapy has to be observable, interruptible, to just make sure, the athlete is never put in an uncomfortable situation, and the provider too, right? Because we want to protect the providers and the athletes. So to make sure all parties are comfortable and, following the rules and things like that, the SafeSport training really covers that piece.
Yeah, it's an excellent addition to training. And I've actually recommended it to folks who are not even looking to work with maybe the Olympic level or professional level, but kind of anybody who has any interactions, especially with minors, as a massage therapist. I'm like, hey, go look into SafeSport. I think it's a really set of valuable skills that are added to any professional, but it's one of those that pops up. And I know people haven't heard of it, so thank you for giving us a description.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great for all levels, all populations, definitely not specific to Olympic and elite athletes. It's good for everybody. So yeah, thanks for pushing that out there. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, my pleasure. Going back to the application process, what are some of the things, because you're part of that deciding pool, like what are you looking for in an applicant? Like what makes a really strong standout? Is it that they have experience with teams? Is it that they're, exceptionally good podcast hosts or something along those lines?
Yeah, so we definitely are looking for those massage therapists who have sport experience, sport population experience. That could be, working with collegiate athletes, working with weekend warrior athletes. It could be working with some of our national and government bodies, some other Team USA athletes and things like that. We want to make sure you have that sport experience, because a lot of times when our athletes come in and they're looking for massage, they're not necessarily looking for the calming, aromatherapy, relaxing candle massages. They're looking for those targeted sports therapy massages, more so like, I'm having really tight hamstrings. I've got a competition. How can we loosen these up the best way possible? They do get a lot of recovery massage therapy treatments as well. So we're looking for those providers who kind of have that well-rounded experience and can do the recovery treatments, can do the more aggressive massage therapy treatments, and then, occasionally do the more relaxing, calming, massage therapy as well. So first and foremost, we're looking for that sport experience. But if you don't have sport experience, that does not disqualify you from the program at all, because obviously this is an opportunity for you to get that experience. And so we still look at applications, even if they don't have the sport experience. We want those. That's why the cover letter is so important in the application process, because we do review those. So if you don't have the sport experience, we're looking for things, about wanting to be collaborative and get involved and be supportive with the athletes and help them improve and, be willing to be adaptable. I think that's a big piece. too, because we work with such a variety of sports with Olympic and Paralympic and different abilities. And so you've got to be able to adjust when athletes throw curveballs at you as far as the treatments they're needing or expecting. And then having that collaboration too, because when you come and do a rotation, we've got athletic trainers, physical therapists, chiropractors, and a lot of it is I may be working with an athlete as an athletic trainer. They have this injury. We're working through some rehab, and I think they may benefit from, a lower leg flush or some lower leg, maybe deep tissue massage. I'm probably going to walk them over to our massage therapy volunteer and, say, hey, this athlete really could use some massage. This is kind of what we're looking to target. And then as the massage therapy volunteer, it's a conversation between the two of us and the athlete to figure out the best plan and then provide that treatment. So as long as you're open to, being as part of those conversations and learning on the fly and kind of, aren't afraid to be busy, because we definitely will keep you busy here, then those are the things we're looking for in the application. So like I said, sport is great, but even if you don't have that sport experience, you're welcome to come and do a rotation.
Excellent. That's wonderful information, and it seems, or the perception of it, that's a little bit of a change from the older model of it. So I'm glad that you guys are open and looking to foster and educate folks already. So that's great. You already sort of segue into, like, after the application process, you get the thumbs out or thumbs up to come on out to one of the training centers. What does the rotation look like? You talked about kind of the teamwork with, maybe it's an athletic trainer or chiropractor, PT works with them, and then integrative, bring in the massage. But what are kind of some of the logistics with a rotation?
Yeah, so basically all three of our clinics operate just like any other medical clinic or facility. So athletes can call in, they make an appointment, they'll call and say, hey, I'd like to get a massage, for 2:00 tomorrow or whatever it may be. And so as a massage therapy volunteer, you have a schedule just like the rest of the clinicians who are full-time staff. And so we'll add athletes to your schedule, and then they come in, you'll treat them for a massage, and then you can decide on a follow-up plan of, oh yeah, I'd love to see you back later this week or maybe next week, however it falls in the schedule for them. But yeah, so that's kind of how the main day works. Depending on the clinic site, it's usually 8 to 5, 9 to 6 schedule wise. But it's massage therapy appointments can go from 30 minutes to 45 minutes to 60 minutes. It's kind of up to the athlete to decide what they're looking for. And then again, a conversation between clinicians, massage therapy, to decide what the athlete actually needs. And then outside of that, there are opportunities for massage therapists. If you'd like to go and observe a practice or a training session that's happening on site, you're welcome to do that too. You're taking time out of your schedule to come and work with us, and we want it to be a meaningful experience for you as well. So we're not going to, lock you in the clinic and just force you to massage people all day or have you, just sit in the corner. If you have a break in between patients, let's say you have no one from 10 to noon, but gymnastics practice is going on, absolutely, we encourage you to go and check out gymnastics practice or wrestling or, whatever the sport may be, because we think building those relationships are important. We want all of our volunteers to be able to connect with the national governing bodies, the NGBs, to develop those relationships to possibly work together in the future. So if you're doing a lot of massage on the gymnast and then you go over to gymnastics practice, that's just another touch point for you to get in touch with them, because who knows, down the road, they may say, hey, we're going to world championships and we'd love to take a massage therapist. They've already made that connection with you. They're like, oh yeah, that one guy, that Kelly guy, he was really great. We'd love for him to come with us wherever and do massage and provide it for our team. So that's kind of how a typical rotation works. It's that, yes, you're there to do massage therapy and provide massage therapy services for the athletes, but we also provide opportunities for you to interact with the teams and sports that are on campus. Because also what can happen too is that maybe wrestling didn't get the memo that we have a massage therapy volunteer. So if you go walk over and hang out at wrestling practice and they meet you there, that may be 4 new massages you have that afternoon or the next day. So it's a whole connection, relationship building process with the rotations.
Yeah, I feel like with massage therapy, the athletes will still sniff it out. I'm like, is there massage therapy on this week? No? All right, we'll check back next.
Yeah. Oh, once one person gets a massage, the word spreads like wildfire. They're like telling everybody in the dining hall that day, like, "Oh my gosh, we have massage therapy! Like, everybody come down." So yeah, it's a hot commodity for sure.
Yeah, my first, I think 3 days of my rotation, and this was back in 2013, I believe. They had it as like the first 3 days, I did like nothing other than kind of like some of the referrals over from, again, the situation you had mentioned earlier. Like you work on somebody like, they need some deep tissue. Hey, here's Kelly, work on this quad for me or whatnot. Other than those like kind of in office referrals, it was like 3 days, and then as you said, with one of the wrestlers came in, and it was like schedule started filling up, and just
Yeah.
all right, wrestling knows about. Oh, yep, they went to the dining hall, so it's a slow process, and then super busy. Uh,
Yeah.
I like how you alluded to some of the opportunities that can come out of this, and I do want to revisit that. But would you mind sharing just a few more of the logistics of the rotation, like time requirements, and is this something I'm, uh, uh, do I need to get an Airbnb to stay next to the training center, and am I budgeting out for meals and place to stay, or kind of some of those logistics as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So travel to wherever location you're doing your volunteer program at. So whether it's Chula Vista, California, Lake Placid, New York, or Colorado Springs, the travel is at the expense of the volunteer. But once you arrive, we provide your housing and meals. And so it kind of varies a little bit by location, just based on space and availability. But you'll either be housed, if you're at Colorado Springs or Lake Placid, we generally will try to house you on site. So you would stay in the dorms, the same dorm style that the athletes live on. And then you would get your meals, 3 meals a day at the cafeteria, all provided to you. If you stay offsite, so Chula Vista is always offsite. And so we usually house volunteers at a hotel that's nearby. And let's say you fly in to Chula Vista, we will provide you with a vehicle to get to and from the hotel and the training center every day. And then you are reimbursed for meals. So depending, like I said, depending on the location, it's kind of the logistics vary. And then in Colorado Springs and Lake Placid, if for some reason the training center is full and there's no rooms because we're just packed with athletes, we would provide you with an Airbnb instead and still give you a meal card to be able to get your 3 meals a day from the cafeteria, or provide you with a meal stipend again to get the meals offsite. So the only things, like I said, that's at the cost of the volunteer is getting to the training site, and then your meals and accommodations are covered by participating in the volunteer program. Does that kind of answer your question? Did I miss anything
Yeah,
on
no,
there?
that's perfect. Those are just kind of some of those nuances, and I know some of
Yeah.
that's in the literature, but would I personally would love to listen to a podcast or someone kind of run through things about the process, which is sort of why I'm doing it. I'm like, this is what I wanted in 2013. So
Absolutely.
for future folks to hear. So just kind of making sure we get some of those kind of maybe less obvious details in the mix as well. Within the rotation, let's say there's a sport you absolutely want to work with or you're passionate about, or there's a location you'd really like to work out of. Is there kind of something in the application process or decision with like, man, I love skeleton, I would love to work with skeleton? Is that in the cards at all, or is it really kind of prioritized by US OPC needs?
It's a little bit of both. So it's actually funny that you mentioned that, because we are working to upgrade the application process and some of the information that we're gathering on volunteers, because we do know there are people who are like, yeah, I really want to work with winter sports. Like, I really want to go to Lake Placid and do bobsled and things like that. Or absolutely not. The warmer the better. I only want to go to California. So we recognize that that is a request of some of the volunteers. And so right now, really the best way for us to get that information from you is for you to tell us. So when you're doing the application process, there isn't necessarily a line in the application where you can specify your rotation. So I would encourage people in your cover letter to say, hey, I, really would love to go to Lake Placid. I really would love to go to Chula Vista, or I really don't care where I go, like let us know that information and we can definitely make that take it into consideration. But a lot of times it's more based on what we need. So if Lake Placid is having a lot of bobsled and skeleton camps and they're really needing a lot of extra hands on deck, that's going to be the priority for us to fill with the volunteers. So we may be sending a ton of people to Lake Placid, or that might be the only dates we're offering people when we accept them to the program. We may say, hey, we only have these 2 months in Lake Placid available for a rotation. Would you be interested? And then sometimes we have openings at all 3 sites. And so we'll offer up all 3 sites and then let the volunteers say, my top choice is to do a rotation in March in Colorado Springs. But if it's in June, I'd rather go to Lake Placid. Like, it's kind of a conversation back and forth. So we definitely take your preferences into consideration, but we can't always guarantee your preference may be available because summer in Lake Placid is not necessarily a high time for athletes because it's a winter sports location. So we may be looking more at people's, yeah. So in the summer, we may be looking more for people to go to Colorado Springs or, Chula Vista. But then in the winter, absolutely, we're going to be looking for a lot more people to go to Lake Placid. So yeah, we're working on updating the application to include a piece for volunteers to specify if they have a preference of either location or sport exposure and things like that. That we'll do our best to accommodate. But right now, I would say if you're applying, tomorrow, then to definitely include it in the cover letter that you have a preference. And then 2, once you've done the application process and we start emailing back and forth about, availability and rotation, by all means, send me an email and say, hi, I've been accepted to the program. I would really prefer to do my rotation in California. And then I can make sure that anytime we have an opening in California, I'm reaching out to you to say, this is what's available kind of thing. So it's a 2-way option for that. But yeah, the more volunteers can communicate it with us, what their preference is, I'm absolutely willing to try and make it work. But it's unfortunately more so based on what that clinic actually needs.
Makes sense, but communication skills being important. You laid out a beautiful example earlier with, maybe do some massage with a member of the gymnastics team, go down, watch practice, and then, hey, an opportunity arises. So after an applicant has done a rotation, what can be expected after that? Does that mean like, I just did my rotation, I'm going to Paris for the Olympics, right? Or is there, I guess, what are realistic expectations post rotation?
Yeah, so this is definitely the most commonly asked question I get, and I know it's the question that's on most people's minds. So absolutely, by completing a sports medicine volunteer rotation, it puts you in a better position to go to a games. It does not guarantee you'll go to a games though, because we have, every games is different. We have different medical needs for each staffing. Sometimes we foresee that we need a lot of massage therapy, sometimes not so much. It's kind of fluctuating between. And so we try to staff as best we can, but even within that, we may only need 10 massage therapists, and we have hundreds who have gone through the volunteer program. So it's really a competitive situation to try and get in. And so what we do try to do as best as we can is connect our volunteers with the NGBs. And so occasionally, for example, I could get a request from badminton who says, hey, we have world championships coming up. We're looking for a massage therapist to travel with us. Can you provide us with some names? And what I do is go through the list of massage therapists who have done a volunteer rotation, and I will send out an email and say, USA Badminton needs a massage therapist for these dates. If you're interested, please and available, please send us your resume and then we forward those on to badminton, and then badminton can pick from past volunteers to decide who's going to best meet their needs. And so that's kind of how we try to incorporate the volunteers into future rotations or experiences with other NGBs. And then from an Olympic and Paralympic Games standpoint, it's kind of a similar situation. It's, okay, we've decided that we need 10 massage therapists to travel with the USOPC for the games. And so we're kind of going back and looking through the resumes of the volunteers who have come through. When you do complete a volunteer rotation, we do an evaluation at the end, and we just kind of say, okay, was this person great at communication? Did they have good massage therapy skills? Did the athletes like them? Did the athletes hate them? Try and piece together to have a full picture. So then that way, when we're looking at our selections for Paris or LA, we can go back and say, okay, yeah, these 10 massage therapists were the best 10 we had over the last quarter. So we're going to reach out to them first to see if they're available and want to go to the games to provide massage therapy services. And then, we just kind of make a ranking list essentially, and we go through that to have the top staff and then the alternates for the games. And so that's when I say it's really competitive, because we're looking for the best, massage therapy to provide the athletes with the best treatment. And so what we're also working on too is, obviously feedback is important for us as a program and as staff, and then for you all as providers. And so we would like to be able to have open communication and conversations about that too, so people know where they stand. We don't want anyone to have unrealistic, expectations about going to games and things like that. And we're working on developing a process that allows that more open communication to say, hey, you did your 2-week rotation in Lake Placid. This is kind of the review that you got. And so because it was absolutely 5 stars, you're amazing. Like, we definitely would look to work with you again in the future. Again, that still doesn't guarantee you're going to the games, but that puts you in a much better position to someone else who at the end of the rotation were like, yeah, we appreciate you coming, but the athletes didn't really respond well to your services and things like that. So we want people to know where they stand, and then also provide feedback too, because everyone's trying to grow and get better. And so you don't want it to be an experience where you came out here and you thought you did great, but really it wasn't as great as you thought. So we want to help you be able to improve as well, and then see if we can maybe have you come back, and then you can show like, hey, I struggled in these areas before, but now I've gotten better and I'd love to try again, like have another tryout of things in that nature. So it's a growing process. We've heard feedback from providers who have come through before asking for that information. So we're really working to improve it. So that's kind of the overall process though, is you do the rotation. We basically have a database of every massage therapist who's ever done a volunteer rotation. And so when NGBs are looking for massage therapists, if we're looking for massage therapists, we can always go back to that list and say, okay, yeah, we had 200 people come through and these 50 were the rock stars, so then we'll try and incorporate them into more rotations or incorporate them with other teams and then bring them on for an Olympic Paralympic Games.
Excellent. And, some of these pieces were in place back when I did my rotation, but I love what you're talking about and some of the things you're integrating, because feedback was one of those I actually prompted for it. I'm like, do we get any feedback at the end of this? And they're like, unless it was bad, not really. So I'm glad that's been kind of prioritized a little bit, and that's I like a lot of what the USOPC is doing right now, and it seems to be very attuned to what a lot of the providers want, and even fostering or helping to educate the next round of providers. So I'm happy to hear it coming from the volunteer program, as well as we were on that big meeting last week for SportsMed, and a lot that was put out then, and I've seen a lot of positive feedback. So awesome, thank you very much. and
yeah, of course.
I know you're fielding some of that, and I'm sure the logistics on your side of it are not the simplest of things to integrate, but it's fantastic to hear that that's coming from coming from the top down, that's a excellent thing to hear. Is there any other advice or any other bits of information you'd like to share regarding the volunteer process? I mean, pretty thorough answers, but kind of leave it open-ended for you.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, just because you applied maybe in 2018 or 2016, things like that, like a little bit further away, and you haven't heard back, that doesn't mean we've forgotten about you. So like I said, we get hundreds of applications a day, a quarter, and so we're always trying to sift through and sort through, so it is a process. So I would just say anyone who's considering applying to the program, patience is key, but we're always trying to update and bring new people in. I think another question that I commonly get is, if I've already done a rotation, can I come back? Can I do another one? And absolutely, we love to have repeat volunteers. I think that helps, both parties, because we're developing more of a relationship with you. And then you're also developing a relationship with us and with other athletes and NGBs and things like that to further your chances to get into a games or a world championships and things. So repeat volunteers are always welcome. And we're always looking, for newbies too. I think a lot of people maybe get deterred or afraid because they're like, oh, well, they probably always pick the same people, or once they find their 10 rock stars, they rotate through. And while yes, we do maybe keep one or two people who are returners and veterans and try to use them as much as possible, we're always looking for fresh faces and fresh, things to bring to the table, because everyone's consistently learning, and you may be trained in one area of massage that someone else that maybe a returner isn't. And so by bringing in that new person, we're getting a new new treatment, a new modality, or wherever it may be, to provide for the athletes. And so the athletes are always pretty open and flexible to new experiences and new people, because they know that everyone does something different. So I would just encourage anyone who's listening to this podcast, it does not matter if you've been around the block or if you're super new, like, we are open to everyone. You just, as long as you meet the requirements, we are going to look at your application and we're going to do our best to find a place for you with us. And so massage therapy, we talked about it earlier, it is very much a hot commodity for the athletes. So it is one of our top priorities of a service to provide for them, at the training centers and on the road. So we're looking to build that pool all the time. So definitely please apply. Please reach out if you have questions. We're always, like I said, if you feel like you've applied in the past and haven't heard anything, reach out and, drop us an email and say, hey, just want to check back in, let you know I'm still interested, things like that. And it'll help us refresh the system too. So.
Wonderful. I think we hit everything. So thank you so much for joining us. Huge fan of you guys out there in Colorado Springs, and a lot of great information today. So again, thank you very much, Taryn.
Yeah, absolutely. Always a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us, folks. The mission of Massage Tools Podcast is to inspire. So help us inspire you. Ask questions, leave suggestions in the comments section. Give us a like if you enjoyed the video. And if you want to see more content, please click that subscribe button, turn on your notifications, and hey, check out these links for other videos here.